Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII, was executed on May 19, 1536, marking one of the most dramatic and consequential moments in English history. Her downfall was swift and brutal, orchestrated by powerful factions at court who sought to replace her and secure their own influence. After her execution, Henry wasted no time moving forward, and within days, the course of English history took yet another dramatic turn. Merely a day after Anne's beheading, on May 20th, Henry VIII became formally betrothed to Jane Seymour, one of Anne's former ladies-in-waiting. The king had likely been courting Jane even before Anne's final days, and her family, the Seymours, had gained favor by supporting those who sought Anne's ruin. Jane was seen as the perfect contrast to Anne, gentle, obedient, and unlikely to challenge Henry as Anne had. Their marriage took place on May 30th, 1536, just 10 days after Anne's death. Jane's primary duty as queen was to provide Henry with the male heir he so desperately desired, something Anne had failed to do. While Anne had given birth to Elizabeth in 1533, Henry was convinced that only a son could secure the Tudor dynasty. Jane fulfilled this expectation when she gave birth to a son, Edward, on October 12, 1537. The joy of having a male heir was short-lived. However, as Jane tragically died from postnatal complications less than 2 weeks later, leaving Henry heartbroken but satisfied that he finally had a legitimate son to succeed him. Meanwhile, in the aftermath of Anne Boleyn's downfall, her daughter, Elizabeth, was declared illegitimate, just as Henry had done with his first daughter Mary after divorcing Catherine of Aragon. This left Edward as the only legitimate heir in Henry's eyes. Elizabeth, barely 3 years old at the time of her mother's execution, was removed from the line of succession and sent away from court. She would spend much of her early life in relative obscurity, though she later proved to be one of England's greatest monarchs. Beyond Henry's personal life, Anne's execution had lasting consequences for England. Her marriage to Henry had been the catalyst for the English Reformation, as Henry had broken from the Catholic Church to marry her. Even after her death, the effects of this break were irreversible. The Church of England remained separate from Rome, and religious tensions in England only intensified over the following decades. As for those who played a role in Anne's downfall, many did not meet pleasant ends. Thomas Cromwell, Henry's chief minister who had helped orchestrate Anne's trial, eventually fell from favor himself. Though he remained a powerful figure for several more years, he was executed in 1540 after his enemies at court, including those loyal to Jane Seymour's family, turned Henry against him. The men accused of being Anne's lovers, including her own brother, George Boleyn, had already been executed alongside her, leaving the Boleyn family disgraced and in ruin. Despite being erased from the line of succession for a time, Anne's daughter Elizabeth ultimately had the last word. After the deaths of Henry's son Edward VI in 1553 and his eldest daughter Mary the Fawn in 1558, Elizabeth ascended the throne as Queen Elizabeth I. She would reign for 45 years, overseeing England's golden age and ensuring that her mother's legacy endured despite Anne's tragic fate. In the end, while Anne Boleyn's life was cut short, her impact on England was profound. Her marriage to Henry had reshaped the nation's religious and political landscape, and her daughter's reign cemented the Tudor dynasty's legacy. Though she may have been condemned as a traitor in her own time, history ultimately remembered her as one of the most influential figures in English history.